Well, I'm not quite at my best, but let's see what we can do. Psalm 15. We're crawling through. Lord, who may dwell in your sacred tent? Who may live on your holy mountain? The one whose walk is blameless, who does what is righteous, who speaks the truth from their heart, whose tongue utters no slander. And then eventually we'll get to a few more. But we talked about truth last time. The one who speaks the truth from their heart. Uh, just because it's worth saying again, we express what's in our heart. What's in us, in our heart, is going to come out at some point. So, one of the most important things that a follower of Jesus can do, in my opinion, is to monitor both what goes out, but in order to do that, well, you've got to monitor what comes in. And so the challenge constantly in our culture today is, what are you letting in into your heart? There's the gates of my senses need to not just always be open. There's some things I need to close the gate for, right? I don't need to encounter that. It's not good for me to encounter things that I see and hear. Well, even things that I taste and touch. Well, okay. You see what I mean. Sorry. It sounds worse than it really is. Anyway, in verse 3, not only is this person's walk blameless and they do what is righteous and they speak the truth from their heart, their tongue utters no slander. What is slander? Well, it's not just you just said something mean. In our culture, in the social media world, if I say something mean, then that's slander. No, it's not. Slander has to do with me saying something that's untrue about you. Well, that happens all the time too, doesn't it? We live in a world, we talked about this before. Truth is, gosh, it's just, we want it to be fluid. And actually, the bottom line on it is we don't want it to matter that much. And here's why. We don't want truth to get in the way of us getting what we want. Okay, that's mean for me to say. It happens to be true. It's not slanderous. But there are things that we might sometimes do that we probably don't think are slanderous, but they might be. I don't want to be judgy here. I'm just going to look into my life, and if it applies to you, then take it for what it is. Sometimes I think slanderous thoughts. And this person doesn't utter them. So that if they think them, they don't say them. I mean, those are things we don't say out loud, right? Well, one of the reasons that this person their tongue utters no slander, the biggest reason for that is they don't think slanderously of others. Here's what I mean. Boy, I think I've told you this before. I struggle in traffic. And because I struggle with dumb people. Ooh, wait a second there, Stevie. Here's the deal. I assign stupidity to people without knowing. And it may not be true. Really, when you come down to it, on the one hand, the world's populated by stupid people. We're all just sheep. Okay? On the other hand, I don't think people are quite as stupid as I often think they are or feel they are. Yeah, they're going 5 miles under what I want them to be going, 5 miles an hour under. And I'm thinking, come on, don't be stupid. What are you? Well, they're probably not stupid. They're going their speed. Man, I wish I could quit assigning stupidity to people that I don't know if they're stupid. Now, people do stupid things on the highway. That's not what I'm talking about. I also often assign stupidity to people who don't agree with my perspective on certain things. And if they have a different point of view than me, does that make them stupid? No. No. I have to be careful here because there is an aspect of this that is worth saying something about, looking at, is that there's a lot of stupidity that happens in the world, and frankly, there are lots of ignorant, uneducated, uninformed opinions. Here's the problem. Well, one of the problems. I usually think I'm much better informed than I actually am. Okay. For me to not have that, so that my tongue doesn't utter slander, my first step is to quit thinking slanderous thoughts about people. Well, bottom line on that is, why don't you think about part of the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. Now, I think giving the benefit of the doubt is not unreasonable. It can become an unhealthy thing when giving the benefit of the doubt promotes a continued bad behavior. But I'm just saying, cynicism is not necessarily our friend. Thinking the worst of people is not necessarily our friend. And part of the reason I say this is because when I think the worst of people, I am much more likely to slander them. So, bottom line, this person, and this is the person I want to be, I'm pretty sure it's who you want to be. This person lives in the world of truth. I don't say untrue things about people. I'm not dishonest in that way. And then he goes on, whose tongue utters no slander, who does no wrong to a neighbor. Well, now that's an interesting idea. Now, you're probably different from me in this. I have friends that are so different. My daughter and son-in-law here are vastly different than me and my wife in this. I waved at my neighbors in Oklahoma. I didn't know them. I knew the names of one or two of them, but I didn't know them. That's pretty. That's not good. I I am called to love my neighbor. Now I can love them without knowing their name or without them coming over for dinner or whatever. I'm not saying that. Your neighbors don't have to be your best friends, but we live in a world where neighborliness is rare. Here where we live now in Las Vegas, homes are not built in a neighborly fashion. You remember, if you're an old person, you can remember in the 60s, homes were built with front porches, not just the stoop and doorway in, but a porch where people would sit on the porch in the evening because it was cool. You would catch the breeze there. And you also encounter your neighbors while you sat on your porch. A lot of neighborliness happened because we encountered one another. I didn't even know. Well, first of all, until I was like in second grade, we never had a garage. I didn't even know what a garage was, right? And the garage we had it was detached, and it was back on the property where our rent house was, and I don't ever remember our cars being parked in the garage. But today, most of us have automatic garage door openers and closers, so that we drive into our homes, click the button, our garage door goes up, we drive in and park, and the garage door closes behind us. That's not evil, but you're not likely to meet your neighbors if that's your constant and only pattern. If you're going to do no wrong to your neighbor, somehow, part of that should be, I think, become neighborly. What you probably already are. But for introverts like me, we have to get outside of our comfort zone. This is not something that we just do by instinct and by nature. My daughter and son-in-law, Jenny and Garrett, are extroverts. Knowing their neighbors that's part of the deal, right? And they're good at that. If you're like me, we have to work at it. The point here is they do no wrong to a neighbor. Now, in ancient times, there were many ways you could do wrong to your neighbor. One of them was that you could encroach on their property. Sorry. Or you could, you could toss your garbage onto their property. There's... In ancient times, there weren't very many fences. The property lines were not quite as discreet as they are in urban places today, and even in rural places. What's the point of it? If I do no wrong to a neighbor, the reason I do no wrong to a neighbor is because I want what is best for them. I intentionally do not do wrong to my neighbor. Duh. I made a lot of it, but it comes down to that. Like, be a decent human being? Well, yeah, pretty much. Okay, my voice is giving out. I'm going to close. Try to do better next time on So Care with Stevie Boy.